Hi, in my career, I have closely followed hundreds of professionals, and the common thing I notice among people who progresses fast and go far in their career is that they use and rely on mentorship. I recommend mentorship for you, and in this episode, we are going to discuss how you select a mentor, how you nurture the relationship with them, and how you maximize the impact they can have in your career. So stay tuned. Hi, welcome to Careers Cast, and today we are going to talk about mentorship. Mentorship is a topic very close to my heart. It's something that helped me to progress and build my career, and in my observation, is a crucial factor for anyone who wants to build a successful career in technology. And successful meaning increasing levels of responsibility. Right? I would risk to say you don't get there if you're not deeply engaged with mentorship relationships. So, if that's your goal, it's very important to you, in my view, and I'm gonna share some thoughts with you now. So, what's a mentor first? A mentor is generally someone who has more life experience, more professional experience than you. Is someone you trust, respect, or admire in some way so that you can take their perspective as your own to guide your decisions, your important decisions in life. Uh, a good mentor is able to empathize and understand that each person has their own journey, so they don't want to impose their views or their actions or their past actions on you. They want to share those experiences so that you can transpose to your context. Parents are very natural mentors. They are your mentors, but parents sometimes struggle with that changing context, right? They tend to be prescriptive. They tend to believe that whatever they did is good for you, and things like that. They are your mentors, so you need to help them to help you. Uh, and uh, and finally, mentors need to be interested in the success of the mentee, right? So they need to be supportive. They need to be willing to make the time to help you. The natural candidates for mentors are parents, in a professional context, your managers, more experienced colleagues, in a school environment, your professors, your other students who are ahead of you, right in the trajectory. Those are the natural mentors, but friends, family, anyone who fit those attributes I just listed. You should have more than one mentor. I suggest three or four at any time is a good number. You want mentors with different profiles, different styles. So, in a professional context, you might want a mentor who is very successful in the line of work you want to pursue. Maybe you need a mentor who understands you very well as a person, right? So that they can provide more personal advice. You might have a mentor who is not too far from you, so that their experiences are closer to you both in time as well as in level, so that it's easier for you to directly transfer experience from them. So because of that, you want to have a mix and match of attributes, and usually you need three or four mentors at any time to cover everything you need. I want to share a very personal story to me, and I hope the story is entertaining, but also will allow me to highlight several points in mentorship that I consider crucial. The story starts in the year 2000, so it was another time. I was working in a small company that I had helped to build from almost from scratch. I was working with the owner, the founder, who was the CEO of the company, and I was the head of product and engineering, the most senior technical person in the company. We are being very successful. We are growing very fast. We had about 150 employees at the time, and we start hiring seasoned executives, more seasoned professionals from the market. So we are hiring directors from Sun Microsystems, directors from IBM, directors from Cisco Systems. So people with big titles in big companies. And those executives, they start questioning my competence in becoming the CTO of the company. And they're also questioning the founder as being a CEO to run, a company that was growing very fast. Both of us were engineers with not a lot of experience in corporate management. And of course, we both wanted to be the senior executives running the company. So we sat together, we prepare a plan so that we are ready to do that. So I was taking leadership classes, communication classes, and things like that. But in the very early portion of that process, I took an action that was very unusual. What I did is I wrote an email describing the situation I just described to you, and I sent it to the CTOs of the biggest companies in Silicon Valley. And against the odds, and surprisingly, the CTO of Apple at the time, his name is A.V. Tevanian, he replied to my email. He said, "You can meet me for half an hour. I'm gonna have breakfast in this place, so meet me there on Wednesday." And I went there. There was such a gap, right, between his level. He was the CTO of Apple, and I was just an engineer without even management experience. And he was trying to explain me what being a CTO is. So after the conversation, right, I left the meeting with two notes in my notebook. The note number one said, being a CTO has nothing to do with technology. It's about leading people, it's about leading organizations. And the note two said, before you can lead anyone, you need to learn how to lead yourselves. So that was what I could understand. Besides the inspiration and all that, the two objective learnings, right, that I left the meeting with were those two notes. And I was not even prepared to understand those notes. I didn't know what leadership was, right? And I didn't know what leading yourself means. I mean, I know intuitively, but I didn't have the knowledge to fully understand those notes. But those notes were crucial and profoundly transformational in my career, in my life, because what happened is I spent the next few years after that, right, investing a lot of time understanding leadership and technical leadership and organizational leadership. I don't know if that's what he meant, but I interpreted, right, before you can lead others, you need to learn how to lead yourself. Leadership is about uh, creating a vision, influencing a group of people, right, to pursue that vision and create collaboration and being able to transform ideas into execution and things like that, right? So the way I interpreted the before you lead others, you need to lead yourself was, well, if I am going to lead others, right, I need to develop good habits so that gradually I become more capable, more able to transform ideas into reality. And I need to develop things like patience, persistence, strategic thinking, right? And so I invest a lot in self improvement, in learning, and in developing organizational leadership. And that was not only useful in the context I was, which was a small company where, I became the CTO eventually, but also when the company was acquired by a public company, I became a VP in the much larger public company, and I was prepared for it. Right, I had the leadership skills. I had learned and practiced the leadership skills to be a vice president of strategy in a public company, and I learned that much earlier than my cohort. Right, I learned very early in my career that leadership was important and self leadership was important, and that set me up, right, to be able to take a level of responsibility that was much higher than my previous experience and be able to handle it, right, and be able to eventually be successful doing it. And that's the value of mentorship, right? Especially in this case, mentorship that was proactive, right? I didn't go. Well, I went to Avi asking for advice about my next transition, but unintentionally, right, he prepared me not only for the next transition, but for my entire career. right? And I credit a lot of my success as an organizational leader to that interaction. This is the story, and it took me longer to tell than I planned because it is very close to me, right? But the points I want to make is mentorship can be ephemeral. Most mentors will follow you for a period of time, but it can be very useful, very powerful, even if it's a one time interaction. When you talk to mentors, right, a lot of times you're not going to be able to understand everything because there might be challenges in empathy, right? But it's still useful. You should still feel inspired and respond. And if you don't understand, it's because you need to learn something. So identify what you need to learn and go learn it. And I think the most important of it is what I'm gonna say now. I am very sure just a parenthesis, Avi and Steve Jobs, they had left Apple, right? In the history of Apple, they had been kicked out by the board and they went to build another company called Next Computing. When I thought in 2000, when I talked to him, they had returned, Apple was not doing well. They returned to Apple to save Apple, right? Steve Jobs returned to Apple, Avi returned with him. And at that time, they are building the Apple we know today, right? Steve Jobs started developing the iPhone, and Avi, in that time, he was leading the development of what became the Mac OS we know today. And there was a lot of turbulence within Apple. So I'm sure he was extremely busy. I'm sure he was involved in a lot of things at Apple in 2000, and he made the time to spend an hour with someone he didn't know who sent him a cold email saying, "I'm an engineer, I want to be a CTO," right? And I'm sure Avi did that because he was helped by a lot of people. I'm sure he learned a lot from Steve Jobs. I'm sure he learned a lot from a lot of other people, along his career. So when he saw my email, he was more than happy, right, to make the time to talk to this guy who doesn't know what a CTO is and is asking for help. And I think that's the most important point I want you to take from this episode, which is the more successful you are, right? The more aware you are that mentorship is important. And when someone asks you for advice, you tend to be more than happy to do it. So you're going to be surprised when you ask people who are much more senior than you, right? And much more important than you, that they will be happy, more happy than you expect to share insight with you. This became more personal than I expected. Let's continue, right? Let's finish. Once you identify your mentors, you establish the mentorship relationship. How do you nurture it, right? You wanna set a certain frequency of interactions. Can be once a week, once a month, once a year, depending on the context. During those interactions, you wanna open your heart, open your mind. That has to be a trusted, vulnerable interaction where you are able, right, to expose your fears, your concerns, your dilemmas. It doesn't need to go out of that context, right? Maybe you're gonna be close, vulnerable, only in the context of work, only in the context of this specific situation. But within that, you need to be really close to your mentor. So if they provide any insight, any advice, you have to take it. You need to act on it as you progress, as you make decisions, as you take action, as you learn something. Always keep your mentor updated on your progress, right? Even if you're not meeting them in person, always keep them. Yes, I got the job. Yes, I made that decision, because that's their reward, right? They want to know that the insight they share with you is useful and it was influential in your decision. So always give them back, give that back to them. Um, and I think the last actionable, do it today. The earlier you start, the earlier you're going to benefit from it. And as I said, uh, I don't know anyone who is successful, at least in the standard definition of success, who has not engaged in mentorship relationships, right? They have not learned from someone. They all have. And as an extension, if you're seeking for for mentorship, there is always someone with less experience with you. So engage in providing mentorship as well, right? You have experience and perspective that other people don't, and share it with them generously. And taking interest in other people's success, and that will make you successful as well. Um, if this content is good for you, share and subscribe, and sample the other content in the channel. It's not every day that I share personal stories and became a bit emotional as I did today. Share, check the content of Kabir's Cast and share if you think it's useful to others. Thank you and see you. Bye.